Thank you. Thank you. No, thank you. I would like to accept this award for being the best high school band director of all time in the entire universe. It was a feat I could only accomplish by myself. Small trophy, but my ego is big. But in all seriousness though, let's talk about what it was like to be a high school band director in my 4th year of teaching, and hopefully help you get some things under control. So let's talk about some of the things I learned in my 4th year of being a high school band director. First things first, accountability is important. This goes not only for yourself, but your staff, during marching band season, anybody you bring in to be a clinician or teach your kids, as well as especially your students themselves. COVID made it too easy to not have accountability for our actions, whether that be as adults, but definitely towards students in a different way too. Have the students had true accountability? During COVID, there was a lot of grace being given because there were circumstances beyond our control. We just want to make sure kids showed up. They were learning as much as they could under those circumstances, and they felt loved. And it's still important that they feel all of those things. However, I think we have lost a little bit of the accountability factor, or getting back into the accountability factor. There's always some sort of excuse. It could be us as adults having some sort of excuse, or the students having some sort of excuse. So it's important to have some sort of measure of accountability up and ready to go. In year 4 of being a band director, I think that I was still too stuck in making excuses for my students because we had just come out of COVID and back to what would I deem as normal or close to normal. So make sure that you, now that we're in a post-COVID world, or at least the way the pandemic was and how it shut everything down, make sure that you are holding your students accountable, and make sure that you give them a clear definition of what success looks like in your classroom, in your band room, in your marching band, whatever the case may be, so that they're not confused about why it is they're receiving some sort of repercussion for something they thought they did well. So clearly lay out those rules and make sure everyone, from adults, those on your staff, yourself, and the kids, are all held accountable for their actions. And a little like side bonus thing on top of that is just make sure that you're actually taking ownership of the things you may or may not have done right, which I think we've covered before in many of these videos, but I think it's important to just bring it up again. So just own it, and always just keep going forward and being honest. Kids really hold on to that instead of a fake version of you. Number 2, burnout is real. If you're doing everything by yourself. I was the only high school in my county. I was the only band director at the high school level. Let me have a quick meeting with all the high school band directors in the county. Oh wait, I just had it, right? Like every day. It's one of those things where you can get in your own head a lot. You try to do too many things by yourself, and it's really important to make sure that you're taking care of you so that your cup isn't empty. You can't pour from an empty cup. So I think it's super important to make sure you're taking care of yourself and getting as much rest as you can and taking time for yourself. And also, in addition to knowing that burnout is real, and it's not just a band director thing, but I know teachers everywhere have experienced this. Just quick little PSA, like, as teachers, we're being asked to do a billion things, being accountable for children in their location, making sure that they are learning in the style, and we're presenting information that is appropriate for the way they personally digest the material. We are, patrolling different entrances and exits to make sure it's safe in the mornings. We're making sure kids get out of their car. We're making sure that students are held accountable for their actions. We're making sure all of these sorts of different things that usually within a company, there's a specialist for each one of these. Teachers are being asked to do all of these things, and Lord knows band directors are being asked to do all of these things in addition to, running their booster club with the help of their booster board and making sure, budgets are done and schedules are done. And like I saw a picture just a few days ago that summed it up. It's like band directors wearing so many different hats, teachers wearing so many different hats, whether it be counselor, you're quote unquote nurse, you're doing what you can do with first aid, if somebody gets hurt, you're checking on people, you're making sure they're okay, you're, planning for the future, and it's a lot. And so burnout's real. I think the whole discussion about teachers not like having a singular job and it's hard for them to teach well while all this is going on, and yes, it's been a thing for a long time, that's a whole different discussion, but burnout's real. As a band director, you have a lot on your plate. So don't be afraid to take a minute to step back and take care of a little bit of your mental health. I know marching band season is crazy. All this to say, it's easy to get burnout, so make sure you're taking care of yourself as much as possible, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Speaking of burnout, there's something you can do to remedy this a little bit and rejuvenate yourself, and that is attend professional development conferences or any sort of event that can help you remember why you fell in love with teaching music in the first place. I remember this specific scenario. This was the fall of 2021, and we went to VMEA and had just a lovely time. I got to hear, live music from some really amazing ensembles, both at the school level and at the collegiate level and at the professional level with some military bands. And it just reminded me of why I fell in love with the activity and teaching music in the first place. And getting to network with a bunch of different band directors and music educators from around the state of Virginia was super cool too. So yeah, you definitely need to rejuvenate yourself and go to these conferences, because not only do you learn a lot, but it can also bring your love of the activity of music back to the forefront of your mind instead of thinking about the billion other things you got to do. And getting away from school and your normal surroundings can really help lower that burnout and stress level too. So keep fighting the good fight and refill that cup so you can pour into other people's cups. Number 4, don't get caught up in results or scores. This was something I think in 2021, which is the year that I'm basing this whole thing around. It's a year during marching band especially that I personally wanted to see the band program succeed from a score perspective and from just a competitive standpoint. Maybe too much so that I focused on it. I saw it as everybody just came out of COVID. So this was our chance to really push ourselves and push ahead, because this is a chance to leapfrog over some people maybe we wouldn't have otherwise had a chance to leapfrog over. And I don't think that was necessarily the best way to look at it. I think that I had ambition to come out of this COVID. We were all tired of being in COVID and just wanting to make sure that we were doing the best we could and pushing the program forward. And I think I got a little greedy there. And what it's really about, having goals are great. Like, have that goal to make state championship finals, or to, place in the top 3 in your class, or whatever the case may be. But make sure you make it about working hard and treating each other the right way. Like, those two things, if those two things work out, which is what I did the next season, so much better, the results will fall into place where they're supposed to be. And ultimately, everyone is way more satisfied than looking at a score and going, oh, we scored less than last time, or this happened this way, or oh, we weren't first or second, or we didn't make finals. Whatever the case may be, it's way more important to look at the product and go, that was the best product we could put out there with the people that we had and the staff that we had and the show that we had. And it was the best show we could do. And the kids would take pride in it. I took pride in it, and it was a much better season the following season. So 2021 marching band season taught me that don't make it about scores. Take care of the little things, the hard work, which I guess are big things, the hard work, and treating each other the right way, and everything will just be the way it's supposed to be, right? You can't control what other bands do, just control what you can do. And have fun with it. And everyone had a much better time that way. We were only competing with ourselves at that point and making sure that we were doing the best job we could. Number 5, sharing the experience with someone changes everything. I am married now, and I met my wife in the fall of 2021. We started dating then, and it was just an incredible experience to, well, number one, my wife is currently, well, she's an oboist. She's studying to get her master's degree in oboe performance right now. She has her bachelor's in both oboe performance and music education, and she's, hoping to go on and become an oboe professor at the collegiate level. So she's going to get her doctorate is the plan, and do that. And so what was super cool is getting to share all of these experiences that I had previously just kept up here or shared with family in different ways. It was nice to be able to kind of talk those out and share those experiences, whether it be band banquets and concerts or other things like that, with someone else that understood, and just, even if she didn't play oboe, even if she wasn't involved in music, sharing this experience with someone that is that near and dear to you is so much better than being locked in your own head. And it really makes you realize a lot of the things you're doing right and doing wrong. It's someone else to hear the things that you're playing or the band is playing and to run ideas by, and that's had experience both in the drum major leadership aspect of it, but also in the teaching aspect of it. And it was super cool to see that shift, and it honestly made me a better band director, because I stopped thinking about just me, and I started thinking about how my decisions affected the band, but also was I making decisions that were really well thought out, having that second person input and sharing the highs were extra high and the lows were not as bad, just because I had somebody to talk through it with and to help me through it, that was excited to hear about all my band stories from the first date onward to even today. So sharing the experience changes everything, and it'll make you a better band director. I'm not saying go out and find someone if the timing isn't right for you, if you're not called to be with anyone at the moment, but I'm just letting you know that it has been an experience that has changed my life, obviously for the better, and I could never go back to doing it the other way. Okay, here's number 6. This was swallowing some pride moments. We just keep going down the list, it almost like one domino leads to the next, but don't get in the way of your own program and let others assist you without getting puffed up. It's so easy for us in music education or when band directing, it's so easy to want to have all the answers. We want to be those heroes for our students. This personal thing we put together, whether it be a concert program or a marching band show, and you want to grow it, to make it better, but you want to protect it and protect your own ego in a lot of ways and protect your pride. If I'm being truly honest, band directors, we all have control problems, I've been told. So in a lot of ways, the year 4 taught me that, I need to get out of my own way more. If I look stupid because I have been saying one thing for months and it's totally wrong or based on something that isn't true, or there's a better way to do something, and someone comes in, says that thing or contradicts what I say, or we learn something new together, I don't have to sit here and backpedal. I can just go, as long as the band is better at the end of the day and you're being honest and you're like, yeah, I was wrong about that thing, and I'm really glad we were able to get it right because of Billy Bob over here, or whoever you bring in, or this person that researched this or whatever. So make sure that you're not getting in the way of your own band program, and let it grow. Hear others' opinions. Even your marching band leadership team probably has some really good ideas, and they may not have some great ones, but make sure that if they do have a good idea, you find a way to give them ownership of the idea and let them run with it. And I think that's a mistake that I also made in that 4th year, is having my hands on everything so much, just because coming out of COVID, we didn't have a ton of control over anything in our lives. And I wanted to make sure everything was going to go the way that, we thought it should. And instead, I never really gave the kids ownership over what was going on because, multiple reasons. I'm not here to make excuses. I'm just telling you that's just a lot of the whys. But ultimately, get out of the way of your own program's growth and help elevate it. As long as your band is better at the end of the day and you are growing as a person, musician, a conductor, a teacher, and the morale and the culture of your band program is also growing in a positive light, I think, it's okay to be wrong and let other people help you out. Perfectly fine. Okay, this one's gonna be really quick and short. Number 7, do not plan concerts and banquets for the same week. Did it once. It's terrible. It's an awful experience. You're prepping for the concert's over. Okay, now you gotta get all the certificates done and all the trophies and the recognition and the slideshow and all that stuff, and just make sure you just don't plan banquets and concerts the same week if you can help it at all. And if that happens because there's no other choice, I would suggest enlisting the help of a leadership team committee to help do a lot of the things that are that they can take ownership of, like the slideshow or whatever it might be, the playlist for the banquet. Think about those things. So, not the same week. Don't do it. Number 8, keep growing and trying new ideas to further change your band program radically, right? That's something I admire from my high school band director and my middle school band director is, they've been teaching as long as I've been alive. And it's just crazy to me to see how they're not stuck in their ways. Every year, they're reinventing the way they do a lot of things. And a lot of it, I think, they're learning from other greats that are doing it and stealing from as many different places that are trying new things and it's working for them. And I also think that a lot of it's that'd be a good idea, let's try it. And if it doesn't go well, either way, it may not be a good fit for where they are, the program they're at, or whatever the case may be. What's super cool is seeing them trust their students enough and their students trust them enough to go, we're gonna try this thing. It may be better, it may be worse, don't know, but if it's worse, we'll just go back to the way we always did it, and if it's better, we're gonna keep doing it, and it's gonna make us better. And just doing that little by little, building that culture of being able to try new things is something that I admire. I mean, when I remember telling for many years, saying if you graduate and you come back and the band program is the exact same way that it always was when you were here, then I failed at my job, or whoever is teaching at that time has failed because the band didn't get any better. Obviously, you're still gonna have staples. We want to play well. We want to focus on tone quality and really hit those foundations well and make sure that we're playing with a good characteristic sound. But how we do that, how fast we do that, how we approach that, all of that can change. Exercises change. I think the goals are still the same, and how much time we spend focusing on fundamentals, that shouldn't change either, because those are the truths, the absolute truths within music education and the band world and all of that. So making sure that we're trying new ideas, keeping it fresh, and you may surprise yourself. It's something you thought up in your wildest dream may actually turn out to be really great for accelerating the growth of your band program and the skill of your band program. All right, this one is something I lived out personally, and I think a lot of band directors live it out every day. But just remember, parents and students will come and go, but you'll be there much longer, and just know what hill to die on, right? So there are going to be battles that you're going to want to fight, and there are going to be other battles that won't be a problem next year, because let's just be honest, somebody is leaving the band program, or X, Y, or Z. So know what hills you want to die on, and that's my best advice to you. 2021, we'll talk about at the end, particularly challenging year for me as a band director, but we'll kind of talk about that some more towards the end of this video. Weekly staff meetings are a must during the marching band season. You need to pour into your staff. I personally had a young staff every year that I was teaching at Franklin County High School, which is my last high school band directing gig. And I think there were a lot of great benefits to that. And that being that there's always a ton of energy, there's always, everyone's willing to listen and keep pushing. I think the other thing about being young is you're young. There's a lot of things that, they don't know. Think about that statement. There are a lot of things they don't know that they don't know. And there's also a lot of things that I didn't know that I didn't know, right? So I think it's important to really pour into them everything that you can. So those staff meetings, we would sit down and they would ask me, is there anything I could do better? What do you see in me that we could work on? How can I fix this, X, Y, or Z? What's the best way to do this? And of course we talk about, the game plan, like most staff meetings do for a marching band. You guys sit down, you talk about your plan for, this is what we want to do this week, this week got this coming up, we need to prep for this is happening here, how can we make this happen, the ballad's going on here, this is doing this, we need body movement here, blah, 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 planning all this stuff and making sure all the ducks are in a row. Wow, I'm talking fast. But you get my point. With a younger staff, it's super important to pour into them and make sure that they are, as long as they're accepting to it, if they're the right staff, they will be, they'll ask the questions, hey, is there a better way to do this? Hey, how do you do this? Why do you do it this way? Or you could even bring up, hey, I noticed this happened, maybe you want to try it this way. And having those staff that are super receptive to that and those that you can kind of push in that way, and the more you can kind of let them run on their own, the better it's going to be in the long haul, and give them the reins. The more tools you can give them, the better it'll be. That can be a double-edged sword, depending on, assuming you've got the right people in the right place. But if you can't trust your staff to do their job, they shouldn't be your staff. So make sure you're hiring the right people and that they're the people that you want to be there, that are being great examples for the students in every way that they can be, and have the same vision for the program that you do. Because a lot of times you can have two great instructors, but the visions don't line up, or the teaching philosophies don't mesh, and that can create a huge problem within the program itself. Not that either people are bad people, it's just, sometimes the fit isn't right. And shout out to Kelly Powell for literally being the best accidental staff member I've ever, that just became wow. The best right-hand staff person I ever had. So shout out to Kelly. 11, it's never too late to refine your program's culture. When I say culture, I reference back to like your core beliefs. What is the program about? And is it a culture of hard work? Is it a culture of laziness? Is it a culture of respecting others, or is it a culture of tearing others down? Is it a culture of great rehearsals that are productive, or rehearsals where people kind of slack off? Is it a culture of talking behind people's backs, or is it a culture of building others up to their faces? Like, what is the culture that you're setting for the band program? And if you realize you don't like where it's at, it may not necessarily always be something that you control every aspect of it. Like 2021, there were things that were happening I had no idea about until they became a huge issue. Glaring errors, and again, I go back to getting caught up in all of the scores and the results. That part I played in it for sure. But there's a lot of it that was out of my control. Just all meshed together perfectly. So how do you redefine that culture? I think it's important to know that anytime there's a shift in leadership, it's never too late to keep refining. If you don't like a year, figure out why it is. Look at it with your student leaders that you trust, that are coming back, that have reapplied, that you accept again, and figure out where things went wrong. Lead the conversation to get them to a point of doing those two things that we talked about earlier. For me, that was my example. Treating each other the right way and working really hard, and none of the other stuff that we didn't want. I think that was super duper important. Refining your program's culture. It's never too late. If you don't like it, you may not be able to fix it in the middle of a season or the middle of a year, but knowing where the issues lie and really analyzing it and why they're happening, and then pushing on to the next season and trying to continue to make it a culture where people want to be. That's the goal. So it's never too late. And speaking of never too late, speaking of student leadership is a powerful tool within your band program. If you don't have student leadership, I would suggest starting to work on that. And I put an asterisk next to this one. Student leadership is a powerful tool if trained correctly. So they can be a powerful force for not great things. Happened in 2021, if I'm being honest with you. And in 2022 fall, we were so much better as a leadership team because I realized the holes in the cheese, the Swiss cheese, within the foundation of the leadership team prior, and analyzing it, talking about the culture, and looking from the top down, looking at myself, looking at leadership, all that stuff, and what we could do to make leadership more powerful and more meaningful. I let go of a lot of things and let them take a lot of things, made them more accountable, made them more invested, and made their voices heard, and they could feel a lot of the weight that I was feeling. So I felt, again, I could have more of a cup to pour from, and they were feeling a lot of the same things that I would feel, and we could talk about those things, and it was another bonding thing, and they would come to me for advice. So leadership, you just can't say you're a leader because, and that happened a lot in COVID, because sometimes we came back and you're like, we need somebody, but they need to be trained. They need to, when you have leadership camp at the end of the year, whenever you have it, it's important to make sure everybody's on the same page, and make sure you have a leadership application process. Don't just accept people because they want to do it, because that is a recipe for disaster, especially if there are people that think they should be a part of it but aren't quite ready. Now, when I say leadership team, it doesn't just mean section leaders. You might branch out. If you have questions about that, you can talk with me one-on-one and kind of how I've set things up in the past. But sometimes you need people that are like crew leaders. They don't talk in rehearsal. That is not their defined role, their job, but they have responsibility to the band program. After hours, they have to do this, X, Y, or Z to make sure that things function. And that accountability and knowing their role is huge to making a very effective leadership team. To knowing the role part. I can't emphasize that enough. That went so well. Every year after that point, I had defined roles. Who has a talking role? Who doesn't? Who does this? What's the hierarchy? Who goes to who for what? It's a lot of work. Doing it with the students is super fun and so rewarding. Again, leadership, student leadership, powerful tool. The amount of kids I could go to for numerous things I could count on the following years after the catastrophe that kind of was 2021. Just awesome. 13, let's talk about 13. Why I ended on unlucky number, I don't know. But year 3 at a job can be the absolute worst. If I'm being completely transparent and honest, we got into the last 3 weeks of the 2021 marching band season. Again, year 4 of band directing, year 3 at this school. But then again, year 3 at a job can be the worst. I remember 3 weeks marching band season was about to be over, and I wanted to, I did not want to be in my job. Not because I didn't love band, but because it was apparent that not only certain parents, and certain students, and more than you could possibly imagine, at least the way it felt in your head, people were against I didn't feel welcome. People were against me in a lot of different ways, and for reasons they didn't quite understand either. Like I said, I went back and did some personal reflection. Sure, I got caught up in scores and results a little bit in my own head. Not something that I think I really ever said, I am obsessed with scores and results. It's not something that just came out, but it's definitely true and fueled a lot of the decisions that I made. So I'll own that 100%. But year 3 is interesting for a lot of different reasons that have been explained to me. All of the previous band directors, students, have gone on except for one class. And maybe if you've got some 8th graders that were in the band, 1.5 classes. And the previous band director could be great, could not be great. Whatever the case may be, like the freshmen that you started with usually do a pretty good job of sticking with you to the end. They are your first batch of being your students. The program finally starting to feel like it's yours when they're seniors. However, when they're juniors and you still have one more class of seniors that started before you arrived, it can be really tough because they have this expectation of the way things should be. COVID certainly didn't help with diminishing expectations. You have to know that you're not the previous band director, right? Just like the previous band director wasn't you, and the band director after you will not be the same as you. No two people are alike. No two band directors will be exactly the same. However you roll the dice. I think that that expectation can sometimes be really, really hard. So some people have great 3rd years. But I'm just speaking from personal experience and some others that I've talked to. Year 3 at a school as a band director can sometimes be hard. You get a lot of pushback. You really see like what you're made up of. And you know, since this video is going up significantly later than 2021, I mean, we are almost in 2024. It's 2023. It's October. It's cool to have seen me write all this down in the middle of those years, and look at part 5, which was written last year, and kind of see how I looked at 2021 and tried to turn the 2022-2023 school year into something that was educationally sound and based off of 2021 and fixing a lot of the mistakes that I made internally and externally and making the band program better, and learning from those mistakes. Just know that there's going to be pushback, and I'll allude to this in the next Dear Future Band Directors Part 5, which you won't have to wait hopefully too long for. We'll see, knock on wood, with my schedule. But there's going to be a percentage of people that are always against what you want to do, especially in that 3rd year, and can be really vocal about it and really rude about it. But it's important to, again, reflect where did you go wrong, and then making sure that you stand firm in the things you know are right, and finding which hill to die on, press on to the next year. And if there are people that need to leave the program, whether it be staff or adults or whoever it needs to be that needs to get out of the program that's causing issues, take that charge. Find out where the source of the bad culture for your program. Get rid of it rip the roots out. There will be a huge outcry, but know that it's worth it to get rid of it at the source than to deal with all of the little plants that come up afterwards if you just keep cutting the grass. Get rid of the plant at the source. Yeah, year 3, 2021 was rough, not gonna lie. Still grew a lot and it was valuable, but just know, year 3 job, it can be the worst. It can be really tough and try you. But know that it's all about persevering and becoming the band director that you want to be. So if you have any questions, always feel free to comment below. I'm really glad. If you stuck all the way through this, congratulations, you get an Ankeny point. If you are a past student of mine, you know what that's all about. I just want to hear from you guys. If you have any more questions, ideas of things you want to see or hear, or things I can make happen, I really like sharing my experience with you, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys later.